Northerlies and 16. It's 10 minutes past 7.
You're listening to Morning Reports, and the police are rejecting claims of a 6-year cover-up of video footage showing a robot and 2 workers inside the Pike River mine drift 3 months after the 2010 explosion. Yesterday, the Prime Minister Bill English was drawn into the controversy over the footage and what it revealed of conditions in the mine where the remains of 29 miners still lie unrecovered. He told reporters the video, or at least excerpts filmed by the same robot during the same operation, were shown by police to Pike River families in July 2011, ahead of the Royal Commission of Inquiry into the disaster.
This happened at meetings in Christchurch and Greymouth in July 2011, ahead of all the footage being turned over to the Royal Commission. The showing was to ensure that the families were not caught off guard when the information was provided to the inquiry.
Well, 6 years ago, Richard Raymond QC was engaged as counsel acting for the Pike River families during the Royal Commission. He's with us now. Good morning.
Good morning, Susie.
Have you seen this footage before?
No, I haven't.
Have you spoken to other people involved in the Royal Commission as to whether it's something they viewed?
I have, and so far I haven't come across anybody who's seen it. The point here is that extracts of video footage were shown to members of the family, as the Prime Minister said in that clip you've just played. And I've spoken to Colin Smith, who was one of the legal team and the family solicitor in Greymouth, and also Bernie Monk, who again confirmed that they saw extracts of video, but importantly not the extract which was produced by News Hub on Sunday. It wasn't shown to the families on about March 2011 or at any time.
Did you watch all the footage that was placed ahead of the Royal Commission?
No. And the reason for that is that, and also before I comment on that, it wasn't provided to counsel for the families by the Commission or by the Commission's counsel. So I don't know whether they got it or not, but if they did, it would have been regarded at that time as relatively important, and I'm pretty sure it would have been disclosed to us.
What is the importance of it?
Well, it needs to be seen in the context which is at that time. In 2011, there was a lot of focus about getting back into the drift, not just for the sake of the families, but also because of what the drift might show to help the Royal Commission. The integrity of the tunnel, at 1.9 kilometres, there's an electrical substation and a lot of equipment. Bits of machinery were in the drift, which, of course, the Commission would have been interested in seeing. So any good footage which helped with that would have been of assistance. And I know that people are saying now that the 2 men in the video footage were just inside the mine and not well into the mine. And that may be so, but I haven't heard from Mines Rescue Service on that, and they're really the only people who can reliably comment on that. It does show the integrity of the tunnel, and at that time there was other investigations going on through boreholes, and Peter Whittle, for example, in April 2011 was advising the families that he had seen footage which indicated a broken roof, torn mesh, significant rockfall. He said that there was no nice, clean, rectangular roadway and there was broken ground. So seeing alternative footage of the drift, which painted a very different picture, would have been very helpful.
Are you confident that this wasn't provided to the inquiry?
I don't know. If it was provided to the inquiry, it wasn't passed on by the inquiry to members, other interested parties. But what I should say, Susie, is that the police did offer to the families to show all robotic video footage of the drift to the families. So that needs to be clear. But it came with the qualification that it didn't show anything different to the extracts which were disclosed. So on that basis, it wasn't viewed because they trusted the judgment of others that it didn't show anything different.
Now, what is also the significance of the omission of this? And I suppose putting that also in the context that you've been talking that there were other investigations going on, namely there was a criminal investigation, I think, still going on at that time. How does this change the picture there too? Well,
as I say, all the video footage was offered to the family to be looked at. So I don't know if it's fair or not to say that the police were involved in a cover-up, as has been suggested by some political parties, because, as I say, it was offered, and that offer wasn't taken up on the basis that it didn't show anything different to other footage that had been disclosed, which the police say was on or about the 23rd or 24th of July. Colin Smith was at all those showings with the families, and he is absolutely confident, as are other family members, that these particular extracts weren't shown. And so far as its relevance to a criminal investigation, probably not, because there was so much footage which the police had showing the same sort of material. I mean, they had it, so if the police thought it was of relevance in relation to a police prosecution, they would have used it. There were, apart from that information I told you about from Peter Whittle in April 2011, there were other things going on at that time which were of considerable concern, which would have made it useful for the Commission and for the families to know about this. For example, we became aware of images of open self-rescuer boxes. Now, that wasn't disclosed to us by the police. It was leaked to the families again. These are boxes that were open at the bottom of the slimline shaft, and that became evident on the 27th of April 2011. And the police had that information since the 24th of November 2010. So that was of concern. At about that time, we also became aware of a body at the which was shown in a video image taken from the bottom of a borehole. The police had discovered that by reviewing video extracts which they'd already looked at. And again, that footage had been available since the 22nd of February 2011.
So where does this leave the families now? The fact that this information, this video, is coming out so many years later and after there's been the Royal Commission?
Well, because of those pieces of non-disclosure which I just told you about, which were discovered by the families, it leaves them very wary of what else is out there. There was a lot of effort put in by the family's legal team to get relevant extracts, to get relevant footage, CAL scans they're called, which is a 3D scanning image, properly reviewed so that there could be a complete understanding of the whole environment. And with this relevant extract popping up 6 years later, it makes the family very wary, very cautious, obviously sceptical about the quality and extent of what's been disclosed previously. How relevant it is for others to judge. Really, there's two factors which emerge which weren't seen before: men in the drift, query how far in, and secondly, a smoking machine well into the drift in an inert environment and the consequences of that. The experts should have had an opportunity to consider those issues at the relevant time, and that was denied them.
Thank you very much for your time this morning. Richard Raymond, QC. He was counsel acting for the Pike River families during the Royal Commission, 7:18.
Well, police declined our invitation to come on Morning Report today. They said they're still working to confirm whether the footage aired by News Hub on Sunday night was shown to the Pike River families during the July meetings in Christchurch and Greymouth. With us now is Sonia Rockhouse, whose son Benjamin died in the Pike River mine disaster, while another son, Daniel, was one of just two survivors. Morning, Sonia.
Good morning.
You've been listening to this for a day or so now, the explanations about what happened, what might have been possible with this footage and other material. How are you feeling at this stage?
Well, I mean, they've changed their story I don't know how many times in the past 24 hours, so the fact remains that we have not seen that footage, and that's the simple fact. They can say whatever they like and they can review whether or not we have. The simple answer is we haven't seen that footage.
Richard Raymond there pointing out that police did offer to show other footage. I mean, is it possible that somebody just made a wrong call at the time and didn't recognise the significance of that piece of footage, or is it so significant that anyone who saw it should have made it available?
No, I think it's very significant. I mean, the footage, they were showing us little snippets of footage at the time, which were very grainy, very poor quality, and you couldn't really make out anything at all. I mean, as you saw in the footage from the other night, it's very clear, and it's not something that we would forget seeing, so because it is so significant. I mean, the simple fact that the robot is moving so freely up the drift you can see that the drift is barely damaged, and also the fact that there are 2 men in there as well. I mean, those are significant things that we would simply just not forget seeing.
In all of this, what irks you most? Is it the significance of this footage or the fact that you didn't get to see it at the time?
What irks me the most is that footage had to be leaked to us. I mean, this is important stuff that we should have seen at the time. I mean, who knows what difference it might have made? I'm not sure, but for us, it clearly shows that the damage that we were told at the time simply isn't there. So, I mean, the way they were telling us right from the beginning was that there was a raging inferno, and that, everything would be dust, and there was all this structural damage, and we just thought, oh my goodness. And when you see that in the drift, it's just about the complete opposite.
Do you feel now as though that you've been treated through all this, as people who've lost loved ones, or as participants in some legal process where there's a bit of tension?
Well, I'd say the second part of that. I mean, I think we've been treated pretty poorly, really. Each one of us has lost a loved one and not had any answers, and to have to find out information, as Richard said, they had an image of a body, but the only reason that we saw that was because it was leaked to us. So everything of significance, it appears that it has to be leaked to us for us to see it. They haven't willingly shown us, and you'd have to wonder why.
What should happen now? I mean, do you want some process where the families will, on a roster system, go through all 28 hours and see what actually is there?
Well, I mean, I don't know about the 28 hours. I believe that there is more than 28 hours. But, they need to disclose everything that they've got, and that's what they should have done right from the beginning. They need to be completely transparent and give us everything that they've got, firstly. And given that, the state of the drift, or the obvious state of the drift, they now need to do another thing that we've asked them or requested them to do, is sit down with our experts and listen to what the experts have got to say, because they're just hanging on their one expert, and we've got several experts that are saying it is safe to re-enter the drift.
Sonia Rockhouse, thank you for joining us on the programme this morning. It's 23 minutes past 7.
Well, Māori urban leader and broadcaster Willie Jackson has apparently accepted a lower than expected position on the Labour Party list. After saying he'd been promised a top ranking by Andrew Little, the leader, Mr Jackson has been placed at number 21. Now, it's understood his initial displeasure at the ranking prompted a quick trip to Wellington to talk to party officials, and that delayed the publication of the list. Party insiders have told RNZ News Mr Jackson has accepted the position despite several newcomers being placed above him. So the top spots on the list taken by Andrew Little, Jacinda Ardern, Grant Robertson, Phil Twyford and Megan Woods. Trevor Mallard is the lowest ranked MP on the list at number 32, and the highest ranking non-MP is Priyanka Radhakrishnan, previously ranked 23 and now at number 11. Let's talk about this more with Labour leader Andrew Little. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, this list was meant to be out, nearly 24 hours ago. What was the delay all about?
Well, we said that we'd get it out yesterday. As always happens with you get the list, you tell people they're placing. There are some who are disappointed. You're going to work that through. And work that through with a number of people, and we got the list out.
And one of those unhappy was Willie Jackson?
Well, he said he was disappointed with his slot. I had a conversation with him, and we kind of got it settled, and he's accepted his place.
No changes made as a result of these meetings yesterday. What was talked about in those meetings?
I'm not going to go into what was talked about in meetings. This is a pretty standard list-setting process. You set the list. It's a pretty arduous process.
Were you advocating, though, for example, for Willie Jackson to be moved up from 21?
I have always backed Willie for a winnable place on the list. He's got a winnable place on the list, and the list in a whole lot of other respects reflects exactly what I wanted. So the diversity, I always said that we'd have a list that reflected and represented New Zealand as best as it possibly could. I think it does that. I think also when you look at our ethnic community representatives, which we did a hopeless job of in 2014, we've got them up the front. That's good. You look at the depth of talent that we've got in this list is just incredible. Outstanding candidates we've got there.
Sure.
Deborah Russell, tax expert. You've got Jan Janetti, education expert. You've got
Sure, that's
Lois
not exactly
and
what I
Willie
asked
Jean
you, though,
Prime.
Mr.
Just
Little,
outstanding.
which was about whether you were advocating for Willie Jackson to be in the top 20.
I don't set the list. That's the list committee.
I
It's
know,
a collective
but you're one
process.
of the people in that collective process,
I said
though.
publicly that I'd back Willie for a winnable place on the list. He's got that winnable place on the list. The list is more than just one person.
But did you promise Willie
Jackson? It's a whole collection of people that represents the aspirations that Labour has for New Zealand at a time when so many New Zealanders are looking for a change. And I'm so proud of this list. It is a good list.
Mr. Little, did you promise Willie Jackson a higher list placing than
No,
21?
I didn't. I'm very clear what I said publicly and to Willie is that I backed him for a winnable place on the list, and that's where we got to. And
is outside the top 20 making good on that? On what you said to him?
It's a winnable place on the list. That's what I said.
You talked about a high
forward.
list placing as well, though.
Well, 21's a pretty high list place, and you get in at 27% of the vote. That's a totally winnable place on the list. That's a good spot. In the end, the list doesn't. There's a whole lot of things the list doesn't do. It doesn't determine, rankings once you're in Parliament. What it does is get you there. But people will stand on their merits in a whole lot of different ways and a whole lot of different things. The reality is 99.9% of voters won't even know about this list by the time they get to the ballot box. What they will know about is the depth of talent that Labour has going into this general
Mr.
election.
Little, how has Willie Jackson been placated, considering he's not your top Māori list candidate?
Well, he's accepted his list place. Everybody's accepted their list place because it's a fantastic list. It's a good
Did he
balance.
threaten to pull his name from the list?
It achieves everything that we wanted it to achieve.
Did he threaten to pull his name from the list?
What matters most is that we have a list in place now. I'm not going to go into conversations that may or may not have happened. I know.
But did he threaten to pull his name from the list?
All sorts of speculation. The busiest thing about yesterday was keeping up with the news feed. I wanted to know what was going to happen next. It was exciting.
Are you able to answer the question, Mr. Little?
No, I'm not going to, because that's indulgent. And actually, most people don't give a toss about that stuff. What they want to know is Labour serious? Is Labour able to attract amazing talent? And we are. And are we serious in getting that talent up, fresh, new talent, to meet the challenges that we've got now? What people want to know is people looking around, serious about wanting to get a change. Is this a party and the talent that it's got that can do the things like make sure people have their own roof over their head, clean up the waters, change the tax system?
Doesn't this matter, though, Mr. Little? Because this goes to the heart of your integrity and your leadership.
Well, it's about putting a list together, and we put that list together.
But what you promise to people and what conversations you have with people, that matters, though, doesn't it?
I don't go around making
Shouldn't
promises.
that matter to the voters?
Don't go around making promises that I can't keep. I've said, and it's been pretty clear repeatedly, I backed Willie Jackson for a winnable place on the list, and he's got there. And it's a very good list. It's a list that reflects renewal and a refreshing change for the party, and a depth of talent that I don't think we've seen in a Labour Party list for many, many elections. Was
Willie Jackson able to speak in person yesterday at these meetings with the people who are putting the list together, or did he just speak to you?
No, he spoke to me, he spoke to others, and that was it. It was a good conversation.
So was he essentially putting his case forward as to why he should be higher up the list than number 21?
He and a few others had expressed disappointment in their list placing. It happens every time the list goes together, and you deal with it. You've got to treat people with courtesy and respect. You don't get dismissive about people. This is a good list. We wanted to hold it together. We've held it together, and people are accepting of it because it is a good list, and it is a list that allows the Labour Party to rise to the challenges that New Zealanders know that we as a country have got.
It's a good list, you say. It's a list also that doesn't include Sue Moroney. What did she do wrong?
It's not what she did wrong. Sue's been an outstanding MP. She's led an amazing campaign for 26 weeks paid parental leave. But the thing about, we're at a stage where we're attracting incredible levels of talent, and Sue amongst them. And you've got to make decisions, and sometimes you've got to make hard decisions.
But she wasn't going to be she wasn't on an unwinnable spot, despite this great work that you're saying she has put forward and the achievements she's made.
There are amazingly talented people throughout the list, including those who will be in unwinnable places. There isn't room for everybody.
But by doing such great work and having that proven track record, what is it that she's done wrong to lose support in such a significant manner?
The list committee has to make a collective decision about the available talent, the new talent you want to bring in, the talent that's available, give a signal about the future talent that you want to bring forward. There's a whole bunch of factors that go into this, and we had to meet the requirements that we have about getting to 50% women on our list and 50% candidates.
But having Sue Moroney up there would help you on your female count, wouldn't it?
I don't think anybody's saying that the women we've got there, the talented women, the depth of talent that we've got are somehow, a shortcoming. We've got amazing talent in the list there that is there now. I've talked about Deborah Russell, Jan Tinetti, Kerry Allen, all the rest of it.
We're running
short
on time, Mr. Little. I would like to ask you this before we finish. Do you think that this has been a display of strong leadership for you, and the way you've handled this has been a success?
I'm very pleased about the list because this list reflects everything that I've said publicly that I wanted. I wanted a list that reflected and represented New Zealand as best as I could. I wanted a list that brought in fresh new talent. I wanted a list that brought our ethnic community.
But do you think you've handled it well and it's been a success?
I wanted a list that had Woody Jackson in a winnable place on the list. It's done everything that I wanted. It is a fantastic list, great talent. It sets us up well for the election campaign to come up, and we're going to have an amazing team in Parliament after the 23rd of September.
Appreciate your time this morning. Thank you. Andrew Little, the Labour leader, there at 29 minutes to 8.
Coming up before 8 on Morning Report, more than 100